Okay, so now I'm going to show you the long and short stitch, which is a great filler stitch. And it's basically you're going to start out doing exactly what it sounds like. You're going to take one stitch that's a little bit longer, and then you're going to take a shorter stitch, and then a longer stitch, and then a shorter stitch. So that's your first section of long and short stitch. But the name is a little bit deceiving because that's really the only time you're going to do that, is that very first row. So if you're stitching the outside of a petal, you're going to start out with an outer row of long and short stitch all along the outside of that petal. And then I'll show you, you're going to fill in with stitches that are the same length, but because you have staggered your stitches long and short with your beginning row, those stitches are gonna kind of appear long and short throughout the stitch. But it's a beautiful filler stitch. It's great for shading colors. So if you're using a darker shade and then a lighter shade, it gives a really natural transition and shading effect to flowers, to petals. And the little April bunny that I do, I use the long and short stitch for the cabbage and use different shades of green, and it just shades the finished piece very nicely. So you can see I'm just going to come on down there. I'm stitching those long and short stitches, and now I'm going to start stitching into those. So this time the stitches are really going to be the same length, but because I'm beginning and ending them, you know, where that initial row of stitches ended, it's going to maintain that kind of long and short appearance. But these stitches are really the same length. And you don't have to be fussy about the length of the stitches. Long and short stitch is pretty forgiving. So usually I'm stitching an odd shaped, like a petal of a flower. So you just kind of use long and short stitch and keep your stitches about the same length, but don't get too worried about it because the finished piece will still look really lovely. It's not something that has to be perfect, which I love about hand embroidery. I'm not a fussy stitcher. I like to do this and let it kind of flow naturally. So nothing has to be exact or perfect when you're doing this. So you can see I'm taking my stitches down, and you kind of end them sometimes in between your base row of stitches or the previous row of stitches as well. And that results in a nice shading of the stitches as well. So sometimes you can bring your thread up kind of away from your stitching and bring your needle back down near the long and short stitching, or you can bring your needle up kind of right at that space where you ended your first row of stitches and stitch outward. It really doesn't matter. There's lots of ways to do it. So that is long and short stitch.